I never cared much for Fortnite. Sure, I knew what it was. Everyone did. But I hadn't played it until my friends finally wore me down. We were a group of 4. Evan, Xavier, Braxton, and me. Evan was the leader. No debate. He was the most skilled, the loudest on the mic, and the one who dragged us into this match. Xavier followed suit with sharp reflexes and smart plays. Braxton was quieter. He rarely spoke, only when things went wrong. Me, I was the noob. Evan and Xavier tried to walk me through the basics, all of us cracking jokes and chatting while we dropped into the map. It felt like just another night, until it didn't. We were mid-match, sprinting from one spot to the next when Evan suddenly went silent. At first we thought it was just lag. His character stood frozen on the screen. We waited. 10 seconds. Still nothing. Xavier, annoyed, asked Evan what he was doing. No response, but then Evan's mic indicator lit up. It was picking up noise. It wasn't his voice though, it was something in the background. Muffled movement. Shuffling. Then came a sound I'll never forget. An ear-piercing, blood-curdling scream. Not over the mic. Not like someone screaming into it. It sounded distant, like Evan was screaming somewhere in the room, away from the headset. Then slam, a door slammed shut. The match didn't matter anymore. None of us spoke. Just dead silence between the 3 of us. I told the others I'd call Evan and turned off my console 5 calls. No answer. I started getting this sick feeling in my gut. Evan only lived 2 minutes away, so I jumped in my car and drove over. His street was quiet, too quiet. There were no cars in the driveway, but the front door, wide open, and every single light in the house was on. I stepped inside, calling out his name. No answer. Then suddenly from upstairs his voice echoed faintly. I followed it to the loft bedroom, and that's where I found him curled up under his bed, his voice barely a whisper. Hide. I crouched beside him, trying to calm him down. What happened? What's going on? He was trembling. Could barely get words out. Eventually he managed to explain, his voice shaking the whole time. While we were playing, he felt something, a nudge from under the bed. Thinking it was maybe his dog or something, he pulled up the hanging cloth and looked underneath. That's when he saw a man, a full-grown man, just lying there staring back at him. Evan screamed, threw his headset down and backed away, frozen in place. The man, he just crawled out, casually stood up and walked right out the bedroom door. We didn't know if he was still in the house. We didn't want to know Evan had already called the police. 2 officers showed up. A male cop went inside to check the place. The other woman stayed outside with us, jotting everything down in a small notebook as Evan relived the nightmare. They didn't find anything. Nothing was taken. No forced entry. Just nothing. They left shortly after. Like it was just another report, I stayed the night with Evan. There was no way I was leaving him alone. We still play Fortnite now and then. I've gotten better at it, but every time we queue up, I can't help but glance at the shadows in my own room, just to be sure I'm alone. I was never big on Fortnite. Sure, my friends played it religiously, and every time they told me to hop on, I felt a bit like the odd one out. I dabbled in it before, knew the basics, but let's be honest, I sucked. One Monday night, I decided to give it a real shot. No distractions, just me in the game. I kept queuing into solo matches, learning the rhythm, figuring out the mechanics. After a few nights of this, I started to get not great, but not terrible either, confident enough to try duos with strangers online. That's when I met him. His username was something like BobRockets16, a jumble of letters and numbers, nothing you'd remember if things hadn't gone the way they did. We didn't last long in that first match, placed around 20th, I think. Nothing impressive, but then I got a message. He said I played well, wanted to team up again. Weird because I didn't play well. Still, I figured, why not? So I joined his lobby again. This time he turned on his mic. I didn't have one of my own, so I just listened to him through my TV speakers. At first it was the usual chatter, but the longer we played, the more irritated he seemed that I wasn't responding. He started demanding I plug in a mic. Then the insults came, one after the other. Most of what he said got drowned out by gunfire and game noise, but the tone, that came through crystal clear. I was about to leave the match after we died when I heard something that froze me in place. He said my name, not just my first name, my full name. I felt my stomach drop. Maybe my name was showing on my profile. I checked. It wasn't. The guy kept talking, but I wasn't even listening anymore. I shut off my console, hoping to silence his voice along with it. The room went still. I tried to laugh it off, texting my friends about what had happened. They thought it was hilarious, spamming LOL and LMAO. But then my phone buzzed again. It wasn't one of them. It was a message from an unknown number. Hi. I stared at it, my fingers trembling slightly as I typed back, "Who is this?" 3 dots appeared. Typing. I waited. Then it came. "Is this your address?" Followed by my actual address. I panicked. Lead typed, "No, that's not me." Nothing after that. Silence. I confronted my friends the next day, accused them of messing with me. They all denied it. laughed, swore it wasn't them. Part of me didn't believe them, but another part wasn't so sure anymore. That night I tried to push it all out of my mind, sleep it off, until I was jolted awake. You ever wake up because of a sound, but you can't tell what it was? That happened. I sat up heart thudding, and then came the knock. 3 slow, deliberate taps against my window. I didn't check, I didn't even breathe. I bolted out of my room and locked myself in the nearest bathroom. No windows, just 4 walls. I stayed there the whole night, curled up, eyes wide open. When morning came, I texted my friends again, told them to screw off. They laughed it off, but in person they looked genuinely freaked out. To this day, I don't know if they were behind it, or if that guy Bob Rock at 16 really found me. But that's not even the worst part. A few months after all that, life returned to normal. Well, mostly. But now it was my 10-year-old son Chris, who was obsessed with Fortnite, played it non-stop. Gunshots, loot drops, that stupid battle bus horn, it was all I ever heard from his room. One night around 9 p.m., he stepped out of his room and casually said something that made my blood run cold. "Hey Dad, someone from Fortnite is coming over." I turned around. "What do you mean someone's coming over?" "Just this guy I was playing with says he lives nearby." I felt something click in my head like a switch being thrown. I asked Chris, "How old is he?" Chris shrugged. "I don't know. He sounds kind of old." I didn't say anything, but I went straight for the front door and locked it. My 10-year-old son Chris was coming over for the weekend. It was supposed to be our usual low-key father-son time, movies, pizza, and maybe a few rounds of his favorite video game. But that night, something was off. I had this strange gut feeling. So before he arrived, I locked every door, flipped on all the porch lights, and double-checked every window latch in the house. When Chris got there, I didn't say much, just told him to stay in his room and keep playing his game. I made it very clear, don't talk to anyone online. No voice chat, no messaging, just play. Then I waited. I stood by the front window, heart tapping faster than I like to admit. The street outside was quiet, the kind of quiet that doesn't feel peaceful, more like something's holding its breath. And then headlights. A car rolled slowly to a stop in front of the house. It didn't park in a driveway. It didn't turn around. It just stopped. Then the lights turned off. For a few seconds, nothing happened, but I saw the driver's door open and out stepped a man, middle-aged, heavyset, wearing a dark hoodie and jeans. He walked up my pathway like he'd been here before, like he belonged. He stepped into the light on my porch and rang the bell 3 times. Calm, measured. I didn't answer. A moment later, he started pounding hard on the door. Still, I didn't move, just watched from behind the curtain, barely breathing. Then he did something that made my stomach twist. He stopped knocking and started peering into the windows as he walked away from the front door. But he didn't leave. He disappeared from view around the side of the house. That's when I heard it, the back door latch. A soft click, then the sound of it being nudged rattled. He was trying to get in. I stayed frozen in place, heart racing, fingers curling tightly around my phone. But I didn't dial. Not yet. The noise stopped. I waited 5 full minutes alone in the kitchen, every nerve on edge. Eventually, I dared to check the window I shut. The light crept to the blinds, slowly lifted them, and there, right on the other side of the glass, was his face, staring straight at me. Inches away, I jumped back and shouted, voice shaking, that I was calling the police. He didn't say a word, just stepped back and walked away into the dark. I watched from the window as he got into his car. He didn't rush, no panic, just left. I didn't call the cops. Instead, I stormed straight to Chris's room and I lost it. I told him he was grounded. Not for a day, for 2 weeks. No games, no headset, no excuses. He tried to argue, but I wasn't hearing it. This wasn't just about rules. He had invited danger into our home. He just didn't understand how lucky he was. Those 2 weeks passed. Tonight he's back in his room, back on the headset, laughing with strangers online. And I'm sitting here watching the window again, because I still don't know what would have happened if I hadn't been home that night. And I'm terrified one day that man might come back. Not for me, but for my son. That was another true story. If you're still watching, you're one of the brave ones. Most don't make it this far. Subscribe to Horror Stories and hit the bell because the next horror stories drop soon.